Um, you may know what I was thinking when I saw this, but I mean, I don't want us to get into trouble speaking about what's essentially. I'm not sure if we're thinking the same thing you and I, but there was a little pain creeping. But I mean, I want to be very careful. It's not clear what your print to share other than the news like that with different things in the paper. We could just move on. And we don't have to talk about that situation. I was going to ask you since I can't ask. If Caltech ever finished the expedition, they've been doing a final hole. But okay, hold on. They had it was just interesting. That's a spiritual matter. Let's talk about. See, this is it's okay. It is another article you direct me to, but it's what I don't. Is I don't. This goes on all the time. I've been saying for years. All these newspapers that report things, particularly the ones that claim to be this sort of liberal paper, like they often mention things with no context. In other words, they give you bad. It was apparently the kind of news, but it's all it would leave the reader with is like, oh, what a shame. But like they're not sort of building in the reason which you have to read the London Financial Times, which I think is like the best newspaper in the world, to see why things are happening. To just say here's these desperate people. I mean that there's an appetite for that. They don't want these sort of big. They don't want the explanation in a weird way. I don't think it's in here. It's what's happening in South Sudan. I mean, the headline is mediators. Well, mediators say progress, but okay, but I mean progress. International mediators trying to settle a bloody conflict. Diplomats in the U.S. and China and Africa have been pressing for talks. The conditions are awful, but I mean, you got a huge population of refugees displaced by ethnic fighting in South Sudan, and they're basically bathing in a dirty river, and you can see. I mean, this is really like the water's there, so polluted and everything, but it doesn't say why they're being displaced. In all these cases, first of all, all these cases, they're always displaced because there's a major. Someone's coming in to drill oil, okay, and now it's bad. It's bad enough. It's hard to imagine how you could be doing that kind of business somewhere, and right next to you is like a shanty town, and like not sort of like cut them in on or give some financial just out of the goodness of their hearts. But worse, that what they do is they're displacing people to make way for whatever it is, whatever business whatever raw materials they're looking for. They're displacing them, but that's the sense with the refugees. But what they're calling ethnic fighting, if you displace populations of desperately poor people to areas where things like water are scarce, not enough water, well, what's going to happen? People are going to arm themselves and start fighting over the areas. I mean, to describe it as ethnic conflict or describe them as people who've been displaced. By the way, I don't see any logical reason why. So, by the way, this is also wasn't mentioned to people who just say, "Well, this is all about oil." We have to give a picture of what's happening. All these companies that they view the global South as a place to get raw materials, okay? That's why also all those, in the ones that weren't sort of geared that way to just be a raw material supplier to the industrialized countries, the World Bank made all those loan conditionalities that they restructured the economy in a way where it's just supplying raw materials. So if they weren't structured that way, those structural adjustment programs made it so they are. Okay, fine. It's very hard to imagine the mentality of you come in, you got a huge business going that keeps the global economy pumping along. To be like that large an organization, to have a shanty town of starving people right next door and not, I don't know, cut them in, give them like a little charity to such people. I mean, the mentality, like so what Foucault goes, like they appear to be like they're being looked at as like the disposable population. Well, not to just give some money to the desperately poor town right there where you see starving people. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. But on top of what they're doing, they're displacing all these people. That's the sense with the refugees from that. Aid workers come in to see if they can give them aid, but they keep having to pull out because there's so much people are arming themselves over the fact that they've been displaced where there's no water, things like that. That's when the fighting starts, and aid agencies have to pull out. Okay, and then the only sort of like way in which people picture the hostility to the corporations coming in is like, well, I guess they, like I said, this sort of like this type of person who perceives people like don't like corporations or something, or like they're not giving them a full picture of what's happening. It's all unnecessary. Also, I don't think they realize that part of this, these structural adjustments they made to the whole global south, that's why those countries are so desperately poor. I mean, they can't, I mean, they're being used in a way that would indicate that the Western countries see them as just simply disposable people. That's what's actually happening, but it's not mentioned in this article. It's not mentioned in any of the articles about it, the context it's happening in. That's actually what to point out about South Sudan. I don't even know that much about the specific things, but it's basically always the same story as far as the big picture is concerned. That's what we have to say about that. We're trying to do our best here, all right?